it was my first time. Yeah. I got to go for adopting Bitcoin, and I lucked out. They asked me to MC for the conference. And so
Cool.
I was just like, really? So I was so blessed and grateful, like so blessed. And, it was wonderful. I didn't know what to expect really going down there. I mean, obviously I knew it was going to be Bitcoin country and everyone was super excited. Um, Everybody was so warm and friendly, and being in San Salvador and then going to El Zonte was amazing, and it was so fun to go meet all the Bitcoiners down there that were boots on the ground, and certainly all the folks that were coming in to visit. I ended up making friends with a woman who lives there, and so she kind of took me under her wing, and I got to go to all these cool places that I wouldn't have gotten to go to if it was just me, and we got to go into the jungle and do a cacao ceremony. And so
Oh, wow.
it was really,
That's
yeah, and
awesome.
have music. It was just great.
Hello, guys. Welcome once again to BitCorner, the podcast for Bitcoiners from a Salvadorian to the world. Today, we have the great pleasure to talk with DJ Valerie. How are you? Welcome.
Yay, good. How's it going? Aloha.
So it's going to be a really fun episode, guys. I know you love her, so it's going to be really cool. And
Mm.
okay, so first of all, maybe for people that don't know you, could you maybe give us a little bit, share with us, with our audience, a little bit about your background and like where are you from, or what did you study, and yeah, we will continue on that later.
Yeah, sure. So, hey, aloha, everybody. My name is DJ Valerie Love, and I'm a DJ, obviously, and I love music. I started DJing back in the late 90s, and
Oh, cool.
I got turned on to music because I mean, I love music. Everybody loves music, but I really realized like music is a tool to unite people and bring us all together. And so, like, when we're dancing together, we're vibing together, and there's peace, right? There's not, people aren't fighting, nobody's getting mad. I mean, most of the times, unless you're like thrash dancing. But I really realized like, wow, you have an opportunity to scale love and scale joy using music. And I did that for quite a while, and then I had kids, so I kind of put my headphones up on the shelf for a while to be, a super mom. And
Yeah.
I'm kind of coming back out of like mommy DJ retirement, and
Cool.
I found Bitcoin a couple years ago. And of course I got into it the same reason a lot of folks do, is number go up. And I was like, oh, look, COVID, I'm going to sit on my couch and watch Miami Bitcoin from the couch on YouTube in my pajamas. And I was getting into the crypto stuff for a second, because I was like, oh, cool, look, what's this going to the moon thing? Isn't this neat? And then and I saw that Beeple sale for the NFTs, and I'm just like, who would pay $69 million for a JPEG? Like, this is weird. So I started going down, and researching all of that. I have a background in business, and I started a couple companies with my ex-husband, and
Oh, cool.
but I never really knew what money was,
Mm-hmm.
and then when I started learning like what is money, and then when I started listening about what are the human rights use cases for Bitcoin.
Wow.
And
How was that?
when
Oh,
I heard, Alex Gladstein and Ray
mm.
from Paxful, and Yusuf from Built with Bitcoin speaking at Miami Bitcoin, I started realizing like, whoa, this isn't just, some cute little crypto thing with number go up. This is actually, there's a use case for people with remittances. There's use cases for people who are trying to escape authoritarian regimes. And I was instantly like, okay, everything else is going to the side, and I'm going to study Bitcoin.
Oh,
And
cool.
because I'm such a passionate fighter for people's rights and for people to be free, and I didn't really understand that money was a root of slavery for so many people, and
Mm-hmm.
like the wrong kind of money, right? And fiat. And so this was just something I knew I had to put my heart and soul into, because I'm a hippie, and kind of all sparkly and all this stuff, and I believe in all of the I believe that we all have to tune into love and peace every day. But if we don't have a sound money system, now that I understand, all of that stuff is still going to crumble. We're not going to be
Mm-hmm.
able to move forward as humanity that I think we want to see the future for everybody to be included. And so now I realize, like, wow, music is a unifier and Bitcoin is a unifier, and they both can cause peace. So, and I have a podcast called Bitcoin, Peace, and Music. And so that's kind of my jam, is I think Bitcoin and music can help bring world peace and
Oh,
inner peace, of course. So there you
oh.
go.
That's cool. And wow, that's a really unique approach. I think I love it. I love it. And okay, we're going to go deep dive in your rabbit hole journey. But before that, do you have any other hobbies besides being a DJ and a supermom? Maybe.
Oh my gosh. I love art, and I've been so excited playing with the AI stuff lately, like with
Oh, okay.
Midjourney. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh. Have you played with any of that stuff yet?
Actually, yeah, I have a book, a Bitcoin book that is really introductory, and my cover of my book made it with Midjourney.
Can you put it on the screen now? I want to see it.
Okay, let me
Yeah,
let me
bring
see.
it up. Let's show the audience like what your cover looks like. You got to pimp that out. I know,
Let me.
it's just like, I'm really interested in AI. I love
Hmm?
technology and I love what it can do. And of course, I love nature. I'm a huge, how do we preserve and keep Mother Nature intact, and how can we help heal her? And I think Bitcoin and music and events and raising consciousness for people is super duper important. And so having immersive experiences where people can get back in touch with why we are nature and why it's so important that we understand that, our life support system called Mother Earth is suffering, and we need to do more to help her. Um, and so that's a huge passion of mine as well. Um, and I'm a huge meditator. I love to
Okay.
meditate every single day. And I really believe that the more that people can take moments in their life every day to tune into spirit, God, universe, whatever you call that great mystery, the creator, uh, it's so important, and I think we're missing that. I think people are spiritually dehydrated in the world, and I
Hmm.
think we're financially hungry as well. And I think,
Yeah.
we are craving connection. And one thing that I noticed, technology is a gift, right? It's so like, wow, you
Absolutely.
and I are talking, you're in, where you're at, I'm where I'm at. I'm not doxing you, so I don't know if people know where you're at. So, um,
They
um,
know that I'm in Spain.
okay, cool. I'm in Colorado. So we're thousands of miles apart, right? So we
Yeah.
get to connect through this gorgeous medium. However, I think it's caused a lot of separation as well. I think
Mhm.
that technology, even though we have this sense of uniting with each other, it's a lot of people, especially young folks, are using it as a substitute for face-to-face human connection and true interaction. Like, I have two teenagers, and all they do is this all the time,
Yeah.
um, and they're missing out a lot on the stuff that I used to get when I was a kid, which is like, okay, go out and I'll see you at 8 o'clock at night, go running around in the streets and be with your friends and go outside. And they all want to just be on their screens now. So there's a false sense of connection, I think, that technology is giving us. And so I think tuning in with nature and getting more tuned in with each other in person, and having more in-person activities and events it's critical for our peace on planet Earth, because
Yeah.
mainstream media has
Multi
been
arts.
it's been polluting our consciousness, right? Like, mainstream
Yes.
media is so toxic and divisive.
On it.
um and so for those of us who uh, are tuning into any of those messagings, it's like you have to be a warrior to push them away and just be like, what's real?
Yes.
Where's the fear? There's so much fear and all that out there. Um, so I think it's important that we remember, like, tune in with this radio inside in our hearts.
Yeah.
Did you find the cover?
Um, yes. Where's my? Are
Oh,
you looking?
nice. Yep, I
This
see it. Oh,
the
cool.
savior. Yeah. So, it's this one.
Yep.
This the savior, the Bitcoin, the greatest rebrand. And I was going to put this one, but I thought that at the end I thought that it was like a child's book, and actually it's not a child's book. So at the end I went with this one. It's the savior
Nice.
Bitcoin. Yeah, so it's an introduction to the greatest ribbon in history, and that's the one that I have in PayHip. Yeah, but you see, I just actually I just put it on the prompter that basically I want like a child discovering the rabbit hole journey of Bitcoin, and that's why you see like a forest and this entrance, and you see the background with the bee of Bitcoin.
Totally. Oh my gosh. It's great. This is so fun. And isn't it like, have you ever written a book before?
No, actually, I wrote it up about this one about Bitcoin because I had a lot of information, and also usually because when I moved here, it was happening to Barcelona because before I used to live outside Barcelona, so I made new friends, especially here in Barcelona. There's a lot of people, and people ask me for my background, and I told them that I was from El Salvador, but back then it was happening the Bitcoin adoption. So I told the story too many times, and also about the civil war and everything related, because most people knew before Bitcoin adoption and everything the great work that right now the government is doing. El Salvador was known by the gangs member and the violence.
Right.
So I had to tell most of the people that kind of story, and so I told them too many times. And by the end, my sister and actually some friends that they were telling me like, just you should write a book about it.
And so how cool is this, right? So Bitcoin has led you down a path where you're like, cool, I'm going to do a podcast and I'm going to write a book, like
Yeah.
you never know, right? I was like, oh my goodness, I'm doing the same, something similar. So it's magical how Bitcoin can open these avenues up of our creativity and how we want to connect and share stories and elevate and empower each other. It's a magical gift to humanity, that's for sure.
So how do you use Midjourney? I mean, what is the most exciting work that you have done there?
What? Oh gosh. They're all kind of different, So we started working on Satoshi, the cyber opera. Um, and we started creating some artwork for that. And so that's been kind of fun, like getting these warrior images, and so some other stuff I did. I just wrote an article called The Bitcoiner's Dilemma, and that
Mhm.
was pretty cool. So I have a bunch of pictures in there that I did with Midjourney.
Cool.
And so that's up on the website. And yeah, it's like talking about the different journeys that we go through, like you have to rearrange your thinking about the world, you rearrange your thinking about yourself, and then your relationships start to shift too.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, have you experienced that? Like how long have you been a Bitcoiner?
Since 2017, I'm the latest.
Okay, cool. You're way older than I'm still just in my diapers. Um,
Oh, really?
I'm only 2 years. Like I've only been
Okay.
into Bitcoin for 2 years. So,
Okay.
but like I said, once I realized again the human rights implications of this, I was like, okay, this was the missing link to like how do we create a more fair, safe, inclusive world for people. So,
Yeah.
uh,
And how was your rabbit hole journey? I mean, you said a little bit before, but how do you realize that what Bitcoin was capable of, and maybe do you have these like several aha moments, or do you have just one aha moment that you click and said, okay, this is it? Just like you
well,
said that it was separated.
like listening to the human rights case, like when Alex Gladstein
Okay.
was talking about somebody
Mm-hmm.
who I believe she was leaving Afghanistan and
Mm-hmm.
she was escaping the country and had, her, all the stuff that she was physically carrying with her, which she got robbed. But
Mm-hmm.
she had her private keys up here and she had them in her clothes and she was able to start a new life again with Bitcoin. You can't do that with her local currency. Nobody wanted that where she was going. Nobody wanted, shitcoin number 642,000, they wanted Bitcoin. And so that really opened up my eyes to like, oh, okay. So she can go anywhere in the world, pretty much and start her life again. And I didn't realize how uninclusive our monetary system is.
Exactly.
I just thought like, oh, everyone's got bank accounts and everyone's got this and everyone's got access to whatever. And then I started realizing like, wow, there are so many people who don't have opportunities because they don't have the ability to transact fairly. They're the other part too was, I remember seeing a headline in this, was a couple of years ago, and it was like, 40% of our entire money supply was printed in the last 18 months during COVID. And I'm like, that
This
can't be
is
good. Like, that sounds like my purchasing power just got robbed. And so did everybody's, whoever's holding dollars. And so that was another aha moment to me too, because I recognized, like, I know how that goes. If you've got too much money and you're still holding the same thing, your purchasing power just went way down. And that's robbery, that's theft. And I recognized, like, oh, if we're going to keep playing this system over here, people are going to continue to get robbed. And so what's the way out? And so the finite supply of Bitcoin, was a huge, like, oh, wow, this is great. So you can't ever just go inflate this money supply and take away people's purchasing power. I liked that. I also loved that, separating the decision making from a human being to be able to go do that, to just, here's the code and here's how this works. Every 10 minutes we get a new Bitcoin. Okay, that's predictable. I like that, and nobody can go in and tamper with it. And if you want to go change the code and, hard fork, go ahead. It doesn't seem to have worked so far. People want to opt in. And I like that it's an opt-in. Nobody has to use it. If you want to participate in the network, great. If you don't, you don't have to. It's peaceful. There's no guns to your head that say you must accept Bitcoin or transact. So that to me it's a peaceful money. It's a peaceful form of transacting. So yeah.
Absolutely. And you said that you have teenagers. So of course I have to ask you, have you orange pilled them yet or not?
No, they
Not
think
yet.
they think I'm crazy.
Oh, really? So
They
they're not orange pilled yet.
anytime mommy brings up Bitcoin, they're like, shut up, mom. So, it's one of those things that, oh, what happened?
Don't worry.
Okay, but here we are. Okay, so the kids are so, they think I'm insane, right? They're just like, Bitcoin stupid, mom, and what are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And so I'm really learning, like, the art of listening a lot more than trying to orange pill them, and getting an understanding of their world and what they understand, what is money and what's not, and so it's been very humbling, to constantly feel rejected by my family on this journey. And so that's kind of why I wrote that article, the Bitcoiner's Dilemma, because it talks about, kind of going through the cocoon, the chrysalis of becoming a Bitcoiner, because you're a caterpillar before you're a Bitcoiner. To me, you're cruising around, there's some weird new transformation that's going to happen in your life, but like, sometimes before you become, you're solid in your resolve, your commitment to becoming, like, okay, this is freedom money, this is the thing I've got to, I'm dedicating, a massive part of my life to this. It's kind of scary and it's intimidating, when you're in that goo, in the chrysalis, from going from caterpillar to butterfly. But once you become, once you surrender and you really just get, like, there's no going backwards. Like, you can't go back to being a caterpillar after you've really got the message of Bitcoin.
Absolutely.
And then when you're out flying around with your fellow butterflies, right? It's like, okay, cool, we get it. Your job isn't to go try to convert caterpillars into butterflies. You're just going to go do butterfly. And when the caterpillars are ready, they're going to be ready. And it's not our jobs to, convert people, but our jobs are just to go, cool, let's go build, let's go do the pollination, let's go do all the things that butterflies do. And to me, that's sort of the thing. So it's been an interesting spiritual journey, personally with my kids, and trying to understand, okay, don't take it personally. It's okay. They still love you and all that stuff. So what about you? Are your family, are they orange pilled?
Absolutely. Actually,
That's great.
yeah, I learned about Bitcoin because of well, actually no, I learned it in university, but then, like, I was deep in rabbit hole journey. It was because of my sister, and she brought me again about Bitcoin in 2019. And I was curious because how my sister knew about Bitcoin, and and then we shared our stories, and okay, I was like, okay, this is something deeper. And then what convinced me is that my dad is a doctor. My sister uh, talked with my dad about Bitcoin. My dad was really interested about that, and you know, we never thought that he was going to be really interested in that, but now he's really orange pill. He's not maxi, but he knows a lot about Bitcoin and loves Bitcoin, and actually supports my work. By he was like, yeah, you should do the interviews and so. And
Yeah, cool.
my mom is a work in progress. but, but she
And what are her objections? Like, what
uh
are her hesitations?
yeah, it's like I think she's one of those person that needs to have the paper money to feel safe or
Yeah.
see on the bank account. I try to share her some example, like when you pay with the credit card is the same thing because you have digital money and so on. But she always felt secure by having the money for the paper money, So that's why. And she was like, but where is Bitcoin? How can I have Bitcoin in my hands? Like, no, mom, there's no printing money anymore. Yeah,
Right. I know. And that's such an interesting thing because I think different generations, obviously, they'll be different. They'll adapt differently, or they may not ever adapt, And so I really believe focusing on the younger people who understand the digital transactions, because that's what they do anyways. Like if they're playing a video game, they have tokens or things that are in there. So they already understand that, you're not going to touch your digital token inside of whatever video game you're playing. And so mentally, I think they're already primed to understand what digital currency is. And so it's not like, oh, I have to hold it. Like my kids, if I give them cash, they hate it. They're like, Mom, Venmo me or send me. They don't want paper dollars at all, because all the transactions that they do are,
with the
through their
phone.
phone or whatever.
Yeah,
And so,
absolutely.
um, so I really think, Gigi, so he's just like, we talk about the old people, right? It's like, we're already crusty. Don't worry about us old farts. Like focus on the young people and get them excited and empowered and understanding how this works, because it's easier to teach somebody something than it is to unteach them something.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. That's true.
And so that to me is like, okay, let's not, I mean, obviously we have to get everybody hopefully on board at some point, but I think it is important to focus on the youth.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Actually, that what you said. Actually, I was talking with Margaret Pais that
Oh,
she.
she's the best.
Yeah. So actually, she told me when she came to the show exactly the same thing, that it's way difficult to teach someone something different if the person learn it in the wrong way or different focus. So it's really different, and I think the governments and the press and the media made a really good job to present Bitcoin as a monster, right? So that's why in the beginnings with wrong articles. So that's why people, when first heard about Bitcoin, it's what media said, it's not what us Bitcoiners said. So yeah, it's really difficult to orange pill. And although it's, as you said, it's not our goal, it's not our mission, but it's just, I think our voice is just to tell them that this is a tool, you can use it whenever you want, and it's better than what we have currently, right?
Totally. Yeah. A woman I'm working with, and I feel the same way. And I think this is probably what most of us would feel, but like at this moment in time, Bitcoin is the very best solution for a digital currency. If there's something somehow that can come down the road and make it that would be superior, I think Bitcoiners would look at it and go, okay, cool. What could be superior? But as of now, there is nothing. Bitcoin is the absolute best. And
Mhm.
so why not use the absolute best when you're, transacting your life work, your time, your value. And so that to me is just sort of the conversation that we get to have, I think, with each other. And it is true. It's like it's easier to teach people from a blank uh, canvas than it is from something that's already got a lot of stuff on it. And so, yeah, this is, I think, our jam, getting the young people excited and involved.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And we were talking before starting the podcast that you told me that you went to El Salvador. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that. How was, well,
Totally.
two questions. One, have you been there before? And second, if not, well, if you do, when? And if not, how was your first experience there?
It was my first time. Yeah, I got to go for adopting Bitcoin, and I lucked out. They asked me to MC for the conference. And so
Cool.
I was just like, really? Um, so I was so blessed and grateful, like so blessed. And it was wonderful. I didn't know what to expect really going down there. I mean, obviously I knew it was going to be Bitcoin country and everyone was super excited. Um, Everybody was so warm and friendly, and being in San Salvador and then going to El Zonte was amazing, and it was so fun to go meet all the Bitcoiners down there that were boots on the ground, and certainly all the folks that were coming in to visit. I ended up making friends with a woman who lives there, and so she kind of took me under her wing, and I got to go to all these cool places that I wouldn't have gotten to
Cool.
go to if it was just me, and we got to go into the jungle and do a cacao ceremony, and
Oh,
so
wow. Wow.
it was really,
That's
yeah, and
awesome.
have music. It was just great. And so I met some musicians, and I got to go to their studios at their home. And
Cool.
so it was just very,
Do you
it
make a
was
session
amazing.
there? Do you play
Say it
there?
again.
That if you play there in the as a
I
DJ?
got to DJ. Yeah. So I
Oh, okay.
DJ'd at, I think, was it 3 or 4? I think I DJ'd at 4 separate little events there. It was really, really
Oh,
cool.
cool.
Um, but the thing that when I got to meet the musicians, right? So I met these musicians at the cacao ceremony, and one of them had dreadlocks, and we started talking about Bitcoin, and he loves Bitcoin, and he's so happy that Bitcoin's coming, but he was talking about the violence in El Salvador, and how some of his friends were murdered by gangs
Mm-hmm.
because they had dreadlocks, and they
Mm-hmm.
practiced a different way of being, and they're conscious hip hop guys, so they're talking about love and peace and unity and stuff. And he said that there was some gangs that didn't like that. They were more like thug gang type people, and they were just like, nope, and their friends got murdered.
That's the
And
shame.
I just was like, oh my God, and so he's happy to see, the gang members and people who are causing problems getting off the street, but
Mm-hmm.
he's also getting personally harassed once in a while because now he has dreadlocks. And so they're thinking like, well, you must be in this other gang. And he's like, I'm a peace, love, and granola guy. Um, so I think there's two sides of all of the crackdowns that are going on. And I'm certainly not one to, I don't know enough about it, but it seems like it's helping to get all the gang and the violence off of the streets. But it's
Absolutely.
also, it could accidentally be targeting some people who are not gang
Yeah,
members,
absolutely.
just because they look a certain way. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know what the solution is, but it does seem like President Bukele has been doing great work. I
Yeah.
wouldn't want that job.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a
God
tough
bless
one.
him.
Mm,
Um,
absolutely. And so now that you went there and went to San Salvador and El Sante, so that was your first experience making transaction in the Bitcoin circular economy, or do you got the chance in the US? Or how was your
no,
experience?
the US is definitely like, it's pretty sparse. There's not a lot of circular economies. I really loved, when we were in El Zonte, the taxi driver or the Uber driver, he had the like, I accept tips in Bitcoin, and he had his QR code and everything. I'm like, yeah. So I loved you. I loved that. But I did notice, when I was leaving the airport, I was at the airport, I was all excited, and I was at one of the gift shops, and I was like, okay, can I pay in Bitcoin? And she's like, we don't accept Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, aren't you supposed to? Because I thought everyone was. And she's just like, yeah, we're not set up to do that yet. So it seems like it's a process. I would imagine,
Mm-hmm.
there's a trust factor with the government of
Absolutely.
implementing this. And so some people are just like, oh, another government implemented thing, and we don't know about it yet. So what's your experience like with, people that there? Are they excited about it? Do they trust it? It's been obviously almost 2 years. Uh,
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. The thing is that we had, I think in 2001, we switched to, we had colons, the colones, that was our
Mhm.
currency. And then in 2001, we switched to the dollar because, well, but back then our economy was really bad, and we started to have at that time some signs that maybe our economy was going to be a little bit struggle. We were going to struggle, like for example Argentina. And so the government back then, they wanted to prevent that. That's why we switched to dollars. But the thing is that when we switched to dollar, one one euro, no, sorry, $1, it was like 8.75 colons. So imagine that, for example, my grandparents and even my parents, right? They have their savings of their entire life, and then comes to the dollar, and it was like cut by more than half, so divided by 9. So people, of course, were angry. And of course Bitcoin is, it's way different, but people still remember what happened with the dollar. So
Yeah.
I think that's why they are cautious about this, and they don't want to accept right away Bitcoin. And that's why it's really important, the education. Like for example, what John Dennehy is going doing with Mi Primer Bitcoin, it's really important. They're studying in the schools.
Love them so much. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that, that's the main reason. One, because people don't know exactly what Bitcoin is. Then second, we have a history with the dollar. And the
Mhm.
third one, I think, that is volatile, right? So it's not a stable. It's not a stable. And so people, when think that they're going to transact between dollars and Bitcoin, of course, it will be mostly the same thing in the short term, but in the long term, of even if you stay in a Bitcoin circular economy by full, it's not going to happen that. So yeah, but I think people still need education, and that's what's happening right there. And I think is uh, is the best place to understand it, because we have it as a currency, so you you will understand besides the concept and everything by using it in your everyday life.
Yeah, it's super important. I think, obviously the volatility is intimidating, if you're trying to transact in it and you get it. And then 2 days later, if it's up, yay, great. If it goes down, you're kind of like, uh-oh. So I think mentally that's an obstacle until there's price stability, which is not going to be for quite a while. You know, so I think we've got some interesting ways to approach um, how people can create that circular economy and feel that their purchasing power is going to be stable,
Hmm.
and so I don't know. I know for me, like, you hear a lot of people are like, hodl, 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 just buy your Bitcoin and don't use it and don't do anything. And I'm like, well, that's not going to work to get a circular economy going. Like, you
Of
have to
course.
use it and you have to transact in it and give it, use it with each other. And so, there's some people who are like, okay, if you have, $50 worth of stuff you have to go get today, like buy $50 worth of Bitcoin and then go transact in Bitcoin, so you're pretty close to, you're probably not going to have a huge swing, within a couple hours. Um,
Yes.
and so that to me is like, it's an extra step, but it's giving, to me, you're still, by doing that, by taking that extra step, you're opting out of the old fiat system. You're still,
Absolutely.
obviously you're converting your fiat into Bitcoin, but I think that's an important thing for all of us to start getting in the habit of, because every time we still stay over in the traditional way of transacting, we're just saying yes to that system. We're voting
Absolutely.
for that system with our actions, right? And so if we make other choices, however small they are, we're going to continue to start getting in that habit. And then we're voting for this new system with our actions, right? And so I think that's a way to, support a circular economy with using Bitcoin.
And how is the situation in terms of regulation over there? I mean, I know they are struggling because, for example, yesterday I think I read this article of the New York Times about Bitcoin mining and stuff. Have you read it? And
Oh God, yeah, it's like it's a hit piece, basically, meaning, you know, whoever funded that piece is excited to, you know, put the FUD out there, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt for everybody about Bitcoin mining. The numbers are not accurate. It wasn't researched well. And so there's, of course, all this pushback from the Bitcoin mining community. And it's definitely, this is the issue with Bitcoin, right? And with anything in the world. Mainstream media, when it gets a hold of something, if it's first, then you don't ever want to be in a position of defense, right? And so to me, because we're not centralized as an organization that has a marketing department, you know, it's really important that we have Bitcoin educators and voices and people putting truth first and not having to be in a defensive position. And so, because if it's out there, if the lies and the fear and all the misrepresentation of data and numbers goes first, and then you have to kind of go back there and say, no, look at this and that. The seeds have already been planted of doubt in, you know, the masses. And obviously New York Times has a huge audience. And so it's so important that people use their voices regularly and back it up with data, you know, get the emotion, yays, and it's exciting, and then put data inside of your conversations as well of how much, you know, why is it important that Bitcoin uses energy? So many people are like, oh my God, it uses so much energy. It's just bad. It's to secure the network. Okay. That's a big thing that people don't get. You don't want to have something like the fiat system. You know, obviously they use guns to secure their network. That's not good. That uses a lot of energy. The military uses a hell of a lot more energy than little Bitcoin miners. Okay. And so when people start to understand why we need that energy here, which is minuscule compared to what the military budgets are of nations to defend their fiat, they'll start to get it. But if we're not telling stories that are compelling, you know, we're going to be in a defensive position. And so I think using our voices and activating people, all of us, is critical, you know. And every time we share stories, you never know who's going to get it and who's going to get that message and grab it, like I did with you know, with Alex and Ray and those guys. It's kind of, then I'm like, whoa. So the more voices we have out there, the better, you know.
Absolutely. And so, just out of curiosity, when was the last time that you played rock, papers, and scissors?
It's been a minute.
So guys, do you know that this section, actually, it's my fault. That in the last episode we didn't have the chance to play that, but hard truths are back, and we're going to play hard truths with Valerie. So so the rules, I have to explain the rules, even though I explained a little bit about that. So we're going to play 3 times rock, paper, scissors, and the loser had to pick a random number between 1 and 80 something. I don't remember the number that we're
88.
currently 88. Thank you. And yeah, and the winner make that question, and of course the loser have to answer that question. And I think that's it. We're going to do it 3 times, and then we go back to the show. So we're going to play. So it's time for hard truths. So pick a number between 1 and 88.
11.
11. Okay, I decide. The question is, how many selfies do you take a day?
Oh God. Pretty much none. I don't do
No.
selfies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Maybe 1 or 2 a month. That's it. Like if I'm doing a DJ set, I hate taking selfies.
Okay, perfect. But you do the podcast, so
I do the podcast, so there you go.
you have enough camera.
Yeah. Okay, now you get to pick a number and I'll ask you.
Yeah, 59.
59. Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay. If you could hire someone to do one thing for you, what would it be?
Of course. Okay. Maybe I think the editing of this podcast, because I have to also subtitle them, because I didn't tell you that, but because it's for El Salvador and also for Spanish speakers. I had to in this case that we speak Spanish, I had to make the subtitles, so involve a lot of production. So if I had to hire someone, probably will do do that.
To do that? Well, I might have someone for you. And guess what? He
What?
lives in El Salvador.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Send me the contact.
I will for sure. He's
Okay.
awesome.
Okay, perfect. Oh, you see, we got something here.
You'll love him. His name's Ale. He's my podcast producer too. So, because I don't like
Oh,
editing either. I'm not an
oh,
editor.
cool, cool,
Yeah,
cool,
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Okay,
Cool. Yeah.
perfect.
Then we can hope we'll send him some sats. So, and
Yeah,
I pay him in sats. So that's pretty cool.
perfect. So
Yeah, yeah,
we make the Bitcoin transactions. Okay, perfect.
yeah. Yay.
And I think we have around 15 minutes. Wow, it's so fast.
I know
So,
it does. It's crazy, right? How fast like our conversations go when we're talking about Bitcoin. Yeah,
yeah.
it's awesome.
So I think we're going to start wrapping up. So maybe we're going to have like 3 or 4 questions.
Okay.
So yeah. So the first thing is that, well, I think it's really obvious, but people maybe don't know. So is that, are you going to any Bitcoin conference this year, and when and
I
where?
am.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
cool.
yeah. I'm going to Miami Bitcoin in May.
Oh, cool.
And
I
I'm
gonna
gonna be DJing wickety wickety whack whoop
really
whoop.
cool. I'm gonna
I
miss
know.
that
I'm
one.
so excited. So I'll be DJing Friday night and at like a rooftop sunset kind of party. And then
Cool.
Saturday night, the big main after party event, I'm going to be DJing that too.
Cool. So you see, guys, so if you're in the United States or even in Miami, if you're going to the conference, you will see DJ Valerie, beloved.
Yay. Yeah. Come and hang out. It's going to be really fun.
Oh, I want to be there.
And I'm hoping I want to get down to El Salvador, obviously, in November. And I'm probably going to try to go to Pacific Bitcoin also in
Oh,
LA
perfect.
in October. If
Mhm.
if if worlds, if things are meant to be, I'm going to try to go to BTC Prague. But I don't know if
Yeah,
that's
maybe
going to
maybe we
happen.
will see there, because I want to go to
Are you
BTC
going to
Pro.
go? Oh man, I
Yeah,
really, really want to go. I'm trying to get Matthias. I'm like, I'll come DJ at one of your parties. Let's go.
absolutely. That's cool.
Yeah.
It will be amazing. And okay, and I think that the next question is going to be a little bit more serious, but I want to know your opinion about this. And but do you think that it is possible that Bitcoin can scale for a new circular economy, not just well, maybe globally? Not, I'm not saying right now, but do you see that in the future? And maybe make a new system. And what do you think are the main challenges that we have to face?
For Bitcoin to scale globally.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
well, I think obviously you've got people with guns who want to protect their money printers. That
Mm.
to me is the biggest challenge that we have. And so the people with guns who want to protect their money printers also control the mainstream media and fund the mainstream media. And so those two things are dangerous, obviously, for humans. And I think that, until we can get the narrative, the storytelling to get people to understand why it is important for us to have money that is separate from government and separate from an entity, a centralized entity, it's going to be a difficult challenge, I think, because we're constantly going to be battling like the New York Times hit piece, right? Oh my gosh, it's so bad that we're boiling the oceans and all the, the horrible things.
Or Greenpeace with the school Satoshi, although it was a really cool art.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so again, getting ahead of the narrative, the conversation, the storytelling, and telling
Hmm.
truth first with, what are use cases of why we need to have this sovereign money, and here's data points that support that. Um, that to me is the biggest challenge. Um, I believe it's doable. And I believe that the more that people start seeing their purchasing power getting stolen from them, especially in places where here, like in the United States, people are used to like, oh, we're the top of the world. And I'm like, well, the dollar is not going to be the top, not with BRICS and all this stuff coming down the line. And
Hmm.
we're being challenged. And so what's going to be the solution for people to store their wealth, their hard-earned time, the value that they've created with it, their effort and time? They're going to be looking for different solutions that aren't going to just melt, like the ice cube analogy that people talk about. And so, but yeah, to me, I think it's people with guns who, control the money printers. They're the ones I'm worried about the most. But I think they're not, we outnumber them, and if we can get on, one at a time, if you can just get people understanding Bitcoin a little bit here and there, and then just, that's going to make a big difference, and people starting to transact and use it, it's going to change, but we're so early. We're so early still.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
Okay. And I think this is going to be the last question, but it's going to be two questions in one. So the first one is, what are your goals for this year? And the second one is, what do you want to achieve in the Bitcoin world?
Ooh, good. Wow. Those are big questions. Holy cow. Goals for this year. I have a lot of them, my friend. That's a great question. My goals for this year, I'm working on an art, music, Bitcoin, and nature project right now.
Cool.
And so that's a huge thing that is on my plate. And so, like I said, when you bring thousands and thousands and thousands of people together to dance and to experience life and to celebrate nature and to celebrate each other, we work better together. We're excited, we're open, our hearts are there. Our consciousness is ready to receive new information. And so this project is aiming to do something like that at a grand scale around the world. And so I'm in the process of putting that together with some folks in different parts around the world. So that, stay tuned for that. I can't wait till it's massive. This is a long-term project. This isn't something that's just going to happen overnight. But so my goal is to get some working prototypes going and get some events going that are going to, perpetuate this model so that we can start, nature pilling people, orange pilling people, and peace pilling people. So those three things are very important to me. My goal in Bitcoin, hyper Bitcoinization, I want to see the world on a Bitcoin standard, and at least parallel. If it's not going to, it's going to take some time for that, but I believe that Bitcoin does have the capacity to cause peace on the planet. And I believe that if we're not having to have a financial system that, is defended with guns, it's going to be a better world for everybody, where everybody can participate. And so to me, that's my goal, is to keep learning and be humble, and every day I keep learning new stuff, and then, doing my best to share, what I know and guide people in directions of smarter people, so they can learn. That's my goal, is hyper Bitcoinization. So, yeah.
Perfect. And where can people find or be up to date with your work? Where can they find you?
You can go anywhere that says DJ Valerie B, the letter B, love, on Twitter, on Nostr, on obviously my website's djvalerieblove.com. So that's kind of where I hang out a lot. And so are you on Nostr? Are you on Damus or doing any of that stuff yet?
Yeah,
okay.
I will share you my profiles.
Okay, cool. That'd be great.
And you can share yours so I can put it on the podcast notes.
Okay, cool. Perfect. Yeah, that's where I would go. And come to Miami and let's get some grooves on for sure. Woohoo! Are you going to El Salvador? Are you going to be at Adopting Bitcoin this year, do you think?
Maybe I could go. Right now I'm waiting because my parents are coming. So after that, I'm going to plan something.
Cool.
Yeah, but hopefully that's on my bucket. On my bucket, that's on my list.
Your list for the year.
Yeah, for this 4 years. So maybe we can see there. So Valerie, thank you for being here, and hopefully I want to have another episode with you. It was really fun.
Yay, perfect.
Again, thank you for your time. And again, I'm sorry that I make you wake up so early. No, just
No,
kidding.
this is perfect. Like I said, this is like the good day that my kids are sleeping in and now I get to go wake them up to go to school. So it's perfect.
Okay, perfect. Again, thank you very much, and I hope to see you soon again here.
Okay, sounds good. All right. Aloha. Adios. Mwah.
Guys, see you next week. Ciao.